Hi there, and welcome to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I want to thank you so much for being here today, being the proactive parent that you are, and getting the resources to help your child reach their most fulfilling life, the healthiest and happiest that they can be, because we know they deserve it like everybody else does. And it does take our part to, as a parent, to do some extra work. I mean, we don't know when we have a child that we're going to have to become our child's own doctor. I was once told when my own son was diagnosed with autism that I should drug him and try behavioral therapies, and basically, good luck. There would be nothing else that we would be able to do for him but manage his symptoms the rest of his life. But I didn't believe that, and I didn't want to believe that. And I knew, because of my background in craniosacral therapy of 30 years now and researching the brain, I knew the brain could heal. It's a scientific fact. But what we have to do is get all of the toxins and the inflammation and things out of the brain's way, of the body's way, so it can heal itself. So that is why I'm here today. I want to share with you resources to help you reach your child's optimum level of recovery, whatever that may be. Today, my own son is fully recovered from his symptoms of autism. He's no longer even diagnosable. And we know every child's level of recovery is different, but they can improve, and they can improve immensely. So children who are nonverbal can often speak. Children who aren't able to focus and think in a classroom are now have gone from D's and F's to A's and B's. Ones who were not social and fearful of other kids are now having friends, and ones who were violent, even aggressive, are now calm and relaxed. And that is what we are striving to achieve, because nobody wants to live with those uncomfortable symptoms. Regardless of their level of recovery, they can get better. So I'm really glad that you're here, because again, I found out pretty quickly, as I'm sure you have, that getting my child better was really going to be up to me. So I'm here and happy to be here for you, to give you resources to guide you on your own journey with your child, to help you get education and knowledge about what you can do. And you've hopefully you've been following me for a long time, and you have heard me talk probably hundreds of times at this point about the importance of diet, and that we start with healing the gut. Now, of course, I call it my 5 stages, which are running through. We've got to heal the gut first, because the gut controls the brain and 80% of the immune system. So a lot of those behaviors and a lot of the immune issues are starting with the gut. And the gut starts the foundational strengthening. So when you go on to stage 2 for this natural, safe, and heavy metal detoxification and further detoxification, because those detoxification pathways in our kids are very often backed up with so many toxins that the liver can't process fast enough, and they can get much worse before they get better, when you're detoxifying too quickly, and even when you're doing your best to try and do it slowly. It happens. This is what I guide parents through in my membership program. I think it's so important to know you've got to go slowly. Okay, so don't feel like you have to be on some race. This is more of a marathon, a long-term, slow process to get your child better. But then we move on to co-infections, Lyme, mold, strep, other things that also get in the way and get in our way of our child's recovery, because those can turn around and go back to the gut. They can damage the gut. Mold and strep and Lyme all will affect the gut. So again, back to stage 1, being the gut, there are, I call it the 7 top foods. There are many foods, but the 7 sort of top foods to eliminate, to make sure that you're reducing the possibility of inflammation in your child's gut, because these are inflammatory foods, and also reducing toxic overload, because they have toxic overload issues where they create more problems in the gut, and they also feed bad bacteria in the gut, like candida. So if you haven't gotten my 7 foods guide yet, please go get that now. It's a free PDF. I've made it just for you, and you can get that at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/7 foods. And that's the number 7, and foods with no spaces in between. I want to make sure that you are aware of that. I will link to it on today's show notes at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/105. So that if you're driving in your car and you forget all of that too, you can just remember to go back to show number 105 with Naturally Recovering Autism, and the link will be on that page for you as well. I have something kind of fun to share with you today, because I know sometimes we get so serious about, the issues behind our kids' recovery process and everything we're really fighting for and holding on to our faith with, can they get better? Will they get better? What do I need to do? And during this process, as I've talked about, again, back to the gut, we can't feed them processed carbohydrates and gluten and dairy and sugars. So as the holidays approach, which are basically here now, we're kind of looking for ways. I wanted to share with you some ways that you could actually give yourself and your child some healthy holiday treats. And I think it's important. They need to be felt to feel like they're included. If there's a classroom party, you could even make some of these cookies yourself, and that we're going to go into, and some things that you can share with the classroom, and just tell your child, remember just to eat these, that the other ones might hurt your tummy, and try to explain to them a little bit about those other foods too. In that PDF, I explain why those foods are harmful, and not just here they are, but I give you more information so you can be knowledgeable. And it's surprising. I remember this with my own kids, that when they were younger, always telling them about, certain foods or supplements, or why they were doing it, thinking they're not listening to a thing I'm saying. But now that they're older, I realize how much of what I have taught them, they have absorbed and are knowledgeable about now. So even when you think your child isn't listening, even if they're nonverbal, you know that they're still retaining information, and they are very bright. Our children are extremely smart. So again, come out with the positive, the good intentions, and just continue to keep teaching them. And then they'll be more apt to eventually understand why they're doing what they're doing. And that you could share these cookies in a classroom and tell them, okay, try and eat just the cookies that we bring, so that those other ones don't hurt your tummy. Or if they're having trouble sleeping, or don't make it hard for you to sleep again, or don't cause you, some anxious, scary behaviors, various things, whatever their particular issue is, so that they have some understanding again of the behavior behind what those things do to them. And so that you don't get sick, or we don't want to scare them, but we want to just bring them some knowledge. So let's get into today. So I know you're probably looking for healthy treats, and again, we don't want our kids to feel left out. And I have found these healthy keto cookies. They are made with natural ingredients, no gluten, dairy, sugar, and they're really tasty. There are over a dozen flavors, and these are already made. And I'm going to go into a little bit more about this. But I first want you to know that there are actual studies, and I'll link to in today's show notes, that show you how keto diets actually reduce seizures by up to 50%. Now, this keto diet also covers a lot of the things I mentioned about the lower inflammation, or the lower toxicity in the gut, or not feeding the candida and pathogenic bacteria in the gut. So that's where it basically covers a lot of those general guidelines that we need for the autism diet, and basically are healthy for all of us to be eating. You also have to remember, as a parent of a child with autism, that the leaf doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? It's really, our children have inherited, or may have in utero gotten, some of our own issues. Maybe we had candida overgrowth and passed it to them in utero, or we had high level of toxicity, or we had some of those co-infections I mentioned, and they have gained them. They can get them in utero, they can get them through breast milk. So it's good for you and the entire family, other siblings, other children that you have, your spouse, everybody, the whole family should be doing this. When we change our child's diet, really it's a matter of having the whole family change their diet. Now, I know everybody might fight you on that at first, but it's a slow process, again, of converting over to it, because As I know, it is not something you want to do really quickly. It's challenging to start shifting the diet. So that's why I say one thing at a time. So don't feel like you have to do everything overnight or pull everything off the shelf in one day, because your child will have a detox reaction. We call it die off, where the bad bacteria are starting to actually die off, or they're detoxifying really fast and the body can't keep up with it. And you'll see heightened behavior. So again, they're addicted to a lot of those foods. Do it very, very slowly. And the same with your whole family. Just start shifting into the healthier foods. You'll get that 7 food guide will give you just a good idea of just, again, some top 7 foods just to eliminate or start eliminating from the diet. And then just start not buying them and buying healthier replacements as well. So this keto cookie is made with all of these things in mind. Again, it won't feed the bad bacteria in the gut like candida or cause more inflammation, or it won't negatively affect blood sugar. And it is actually healthy. Like some of the flavors have over 5 grams of protein in them. And like I mentioned before, there are over a dozen flavors. So they're really good. And I wanted to share it with you. And if you're wondering how they're sweetened in a healthy way, they're made with something called monk fruit. And monk fruit and stevia are 2 sweeteners that are natural, and they do not affect blood sugar or feed the bad bacteria in the gut. So it's good for you to know that with anything as you move forward. Those artificial sweeteners that you look at on the market, and you may have even in your home, are neurotoxic. They literally destroy brain cells. You don't want to use them. Very, very important to know that. And I've mentioned that too, again, on the PDF guide, the free 7 foods guide, why. So go into that a little bit further. So it's very, just remember not to use any of the artificials. So these cookies, these particular ones I'm going to share with you, they are made again with monk fruit, and that will stay within the good guidelines of all of these things as well. Now, fortunately, with this company, I actually know the owner. It's a very small company, and they're just starting to really grow. They're shipping throughout the US, and I have to say this, as I will mention this code to you for a 20% off discount as well. They can only be shipped within the US because they are a small company. They're shipped very quickly, and they need to be refrigerated as soon as you get them, or they can also be frozen for long-term usage, but they don't have the ability to ship outside of the US just yet. But don't leave, don't run away if you're outside the US, because I have more resources for you. And if you're in the US and you want to try doing some things on your own, then I'm going to have some guidelines for you as well, because I think it's important to know how you can make some of these things in your own kitchen. So first of all, these naturally keto-licious cookies is what they're called. They've given me a discount code of NRA20 for naturally recovering autism, not the other thing. NRA20 will be a discount code. Will get you 20% off discount of these really exceptionally delicious cookies, and they're healthy, which is what I think is so important for you and your whole family. They're great gifts. So you can, I've given the link on the show notes, again, at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/105, to the link to the URL, the address for the website. And again, you can use that code long term. This isn't just for now or for the holidays. It's long term. Anytime you want to in the future, you can use that code and get 20% off of your entire purchase. And you're welcome to share it as well. It's open to anybody to use. And I think these also make great gifts as well. So just want to put that out there too. Now, if you're outside of the US, or you feel like you'd like to try your own hand at making them in your own home, then there are some keto cookbooks that I'm going to link to also in today's show notes. And of course, Google has a ton of different types of keto recipes. Now, one thing we want to look at is you can substitute all of any bad food. Gluten, can be substituted by very commonly almond flour is really good, or coconut flour. Dairy, cow's milk can be substituted with almond milk or coconut milk or hemp milk if your child has any nut allergies and you need to stay away from the nut milks. And hemp is something that's good, hemp milk. Never soy milk. Soy is on that 7 food guide, and I explain all of the reasons why. But soy is very, very inflammatory. It's allergenic. It messes with your hormones, and if it's in a liquid form, it's even worse. The PDF will explain more of that to you. But very important, never to use soy milk or soy products for that matter, really. And I know vegetarians, I like to make sure that you're aware of that. So hemp is a good substitute, hemp milk. Be sure with any of those milks that you, just like with any of these gluten-free products that they're making, they'll add so many awful ingredients to them, so many harmful ingredients that will feed the bad bacteria, or they're processed carbohydrates that are just basically junk food. That's why I say, if you can get a good organic almond flour or coconut flour, those are both very, very good to use. And so that you're not getting any of the bad things in your diet as well. You don't want to have any of those milks have any added sugars or fillers or anything like that. So just check your labels. And that's a simple thing to do. Did they add sugars? If they did, put it down and pick up another one, or go to a health food store if it's a regular store. Again, organic is always your best choice, because then you're not going to be adding in any more uh, pesticides or chemicals that are more toxins that you're putting in your child's body. I've had parents, especially parents in my membership program, say they were doing really well with the diet, and then they bought something at the store and they didn't realize that it wasn't organic, and their child had their symptoms heightened again, and they've been doing really well. So you can often see in your child changes that can happen pretty quickly in their physical health or their emotional behavioral health when they have things that their body rejects, or is causing more inflammation or toxins. So those are a couple things to be aware of. So when you're looking at any diet, well, that too, with any recipe, know that you can substitute a cup of almond flour to a cup of wheat flour. It's pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio. Same with coconut flour, but also know that you want to use kind of your common sense with it. As you're adding in, I like to add in slowly when I'm substituting an ingredient for something else in a recipe book or on a recipe online. When you have, say it calls for a cup of wheat flour and you're substituting a cup of almond flour, you very, very slowly start, I always call titrating because I titrate dosages up. When you start mixing it in, just mix it in very slowly and go for the consistency you want. Of course, it makes sense, right? It's very easy to do. So slowly add it in. If after you've gotten to a half or about 3/4 of a cup, it looks like it's about the consistency you want, then maybe you don't need to add more. And a good way to notice is if the consistency of your ingredients is crumbly and it's not able to, you can't roll it into a ball in your hand and then flatten it out on a cookie sheet without it completely falling apart, then you've added too much almond flour, too much of the dry goods. And alternately, if it's still too gooey, then you want to add a little bit more. So, that's common sense, right? You can figure that out just as you go along. And the first time you do a recipe, sometimes it's kind of a test. And then after that, you start getting to, know how that recipe works a little bit better. And we've also all tried different recipes that some of them end up being really, really tasty, and some of them aren't so good that we do on our own. So, you go until you find some of those that you really like. And I've linked to a couple of keto cookbooks. One is dairy-free and one is gluten-free and dairy-free. And then a book called Cooking with Coconut Flour. And then even Google, of course, has a lot of keto recipes that you can go through and substitute. Because if one says dairy-free, like this one keto cookbook, but it's not gluten-free, then you want to make sure you're substituting those. Anywhere it calls for wheat flour, you want to substitute for coconut flour or almond flour. something again that's healthier, not many of those alternatives that are offered out there. Just read your labels, because things, tapioca flour and potato flour, all of those things are, they affect blood sugar, they're processed carbohydrates, they feed those bad bacteria. So you want to know to avoid those. It's really important in the long run for your child's health and for your own, really. So again, you can, for one-to-one, exchange out the flour ratio usually, but slowly folding it in and mixing it in to get the consistency you want. And the same with monk fruit. Monk fruit is a one-to-one ratio for sugar. So say a recipe calls for a half cup of sugar, you can substitute a half cup of monk fruit. And I've linked to an organic monk fruit on the show notes page for you. It comes in granules like sugar. They also have liquid forms, but the granules are easy. Again, like sugar, you just mix it in, again, that one-to-one ratio. But monk fruit can be a little bit sweeter sometimes than sugar can. So what I suggest is mixing it in a little bit at a time, and then you might need a little bit less than sugar even. But in general, it's one-to-one. But again, it's desired amount of sweetness too. Some people like things extra sweet. Other people like things not as sweet. I don't eat a lot of sugar. So when I do eat some, or when I eat something like a monk fruit, or, something like stevia, that a little bit goes a long way for me. I taste the sweetness a lot because my body isn't as desensitized to the sugar or the sweetness. So just bear that in mind, that you might want to start with a little bit less, but pretty close to a one-to-one ratio, just so you have those guidelines in mind. Because again, there are a lot of really great ways that you can make healthy foods at home by just substituting a regular recipe with the ingredients that are healthier for your family. And a lot of the times, our kids don't even know the difference. I have bought some of these keto cookies and had them at home. They did a whole variety pack, so I got one with like all the different flavors in it. And my had my husband and my son try them, and both of them, even my husband was like, "These are really good." He's gonna get his mom a box for Christmas, and I was like, "Yeah, they are, aren't they?" So, it's kind of funny to watch that, but it also is a way to, keep him eating the healthier foods too. If you have the healthier foods in your home, is what people tend to start eating, right? Because the junk food's not there. Just don't buy it. And again, if you're weaning people off of those bad foods because they will likely be addicted to them, remember, it can be a slow process, and the holidays can be a tough time to be doing that. And if you've already been doing a really good job with the diet, you don't want to lose the progress that you've already made, and you've seen changes, positive changes in your child's health and behavior, like many parents have who have switched to the good diet, the good foods. Then it's important to keep that progress. You don't want to lose it. Now, of course, one little thing on occasion depends on the child. Some of them might really, go off the rails and get wild on a little tiny bit of the old bad food if they get it during the holidays. Others not affected as much, but they are going to be affected. So this is a way to give some healthy treats in the house, some that you could purchase already ready-made if you choose to. And again, please use my discount code for 20% off of these great Keto-licious cookies. And again, they have 13 flavors to choose from, or variety packs. Or you can make things yourself at home in your own kitchen and just use the healthier versions. That way your family will have some healthy treats, and your child with autism can keep all of the progress that you've already made with them. And hopefully you guys can enjoy your holiday. You can enjoy your holiday, and everybody, the whole family is having a good time, and nobody's feeling left out. And I hope that all of you have really the healthiest holidays possible. And if you, again, if you're driving or out on your morning run and you're listening to this podcast, that the show notes again will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/105. And if you wouldn't mind leaving me a review on my iTunes page for this podcast, it helps other parents to learn about it and see that other parents like it, and that if it's been helpful for you, then I want to reach other people. And please share it with anybody that you know, even on your social media for that matter, like anywhere where others who are in need of the resources could benefit from them, because my goal is to help as many parents as possible, and we can all help each other together. So if that's something that you are willing to do, that would be very, very helpful and greatly appreciated. I hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself, and we will see you next week.